Hello everyone and welcome to episode 26 of RETRY. Today we're going to be looking back at one of my personal favorites for the PlayStation 1, Rash, released by Electronic Arts in 1995. When it made its appearance on the PlayStation, Rash was already a successful racing franchise on the Sega systems. Electronic Arts was better known during the beginning and middle 90s as a PC developer. Why did they develop for PlayStation and Sega? It's really a simple answer. Companies like Sega and PlayStation were able to woo away PC developers like Electronic Arts from Nintendo at the time because Nintendo was still trying to enforce an exclusive agreement to anyone that wanted to make games for their systems. Most of the time, this was a 2-year exclusive deal, so if you made a game for Nintendo or Super Nintendo, you could not release that game under any other system for 2 years, and usually at that point, it's out of date and you've lost any opportunity for additional sales. PC developers didn't want any part of that, but Sega and Sony gave them a different option. The game is a third-person motorcycle racing game that introduces elements of combat. You can punch and kick your opponents all while dodging in and out of traffic. You compete in illegal road races and try to avoid the police. If you're arrested, you lose money. If you run out of money, you lose the game. If you place in the top 3 of any of the races, you earn cash which can be used to buy better bikes. These new bikes allow you to remain competitive as you progress through the game. Rash has 5 total tracks, and when you get first place on each track, that levels you up and allows you to progress to the next tier of racing. I'll tell you right now, absolutely get your next bike before you level up, because if you try to play on level 2 races with the starting bike, it's hopeless. You'll never make any money and you're done. The controls are fairly simple. You pretty much just have left and right. You have a punch and kick button, you can brake, and then eventually as you upgrade your bike, you can use nitrous. It's definitely worth mentioning that Rash had a simple physics engine. This allowed the bike to crash pretty spectacularly and in different manners. It wasn't just the same crash animation over and over. If you hit a car going max speed, you would fly through the air pretty hilariously. Also, Rash was one of the first games to incorporate traffic as a major part of the gameplay. Dodging in and out of cars, trying to avoid pedestrians, old ladies on walkers, sometimes even chickens. It all adds to the challenge of this great game. If you weren't playing aggressively enough, the game would also send police out to get you. And that's also one of my favorite parts of the game. I kinda gun for those guys. No offense, I love cops. It's so great to steal their tonfa and use it against the other bikers. The combat of Rash was extremely simple, but effective. You basically had a kick button which could push other bikes away and keep them from passing you, and you had a punch button, which you could punch people off bikes, but more importantly, if you timed it right, you could use the punch button to take your opponent's weapons. Much like other Sega and PlayStation racing games, Rash featured shortcuts that you could take advantage of if you had fallen behind. In between the races, you can go to the bar to see what the other racers think of you. If they're neutral, they'll just give you tips for succeeding in the next race. But if you actually piss them off in the previous race, they will threaten you and gun for you in the next races. So the game actually would adapt based on your behavior. Pretty cool. The game is filled with hilarious movies in between the races. And I have to say that for the most part, they're just great, except for one in particular. Now, as you can see, I am Teflon Mike through all this racing, and after I win this race, I'm clearly staring at a man's junk, and I'm clearly now a woman. Now, to cap off all this incredible gameplay, the combat, the excitement, and the racing, EA decided to up the ante for the PlayStation release of Rash and include licensed music. To put it in perspective of how good the music for Rash was for the time, it won Soundtrack of the Year before the game was even released. Just to show you how many bands were featured in this game, you got Hammerbox, Monster Magnet, Paw, multiple tracks from Soundgarden including Super Unknown and Kickstand, You got Swerve Driver, and my personal favorite, an Irish metal band named Therapy, which if you've never heard of it, they're outstanding. Road Rash for the original PlayStation is really just a sum of its parts. When it originally came out, it was reviewed extremely favorably, and now, in hindsight, the reviews have not been so kind. I can tell you though, I have just as much fun playing it now as I did back then. And when you consider all the things that it did that was really ahead of its time, including the traffic, the licensed music, the fighting, the combat, the police, the movies in between the races, it really put together an awesome package. If you want to play Road Rash, you don't have to look too far for it. This is by far one of the most common games that I've reviewed so far. The PlayStation version works pretty well on PS2, and it's very easy to find on Amazon.com or eBay, and it's pretty cheap too, usually under $10 for an original copy of the game. Electronic Arts also made it available on the EA Replay release for the PlayStation Portable. That was released in 2006, and it comes with a slew of unappreciated games, including Mutant League Football, Syndicate,
Minigun,
and Wing Commander. Thanks for watching. For VideoGameSaga.com, this is Tony B, and I'm out. Retry? You know it.